Some people pursue power. They just want power. They're just power hungry. They can't even rest because they're just trying to get power and more power, power, more power to you. Some people are pursuing knowledge, and they're perpetually in school somewhere, working on another degree and another degree and another degree. At some point, you need to graduate and go put it into application. Now, I believe in everybody being a lifelong learner. I'm a lifelong learner. We ought to be perpetual students of life, but now not addicted to institutions of higher learning to where you just get degree after degree, at some point graduate and put it into practice. So, I mean, balance is the key. Balance is the key. Some people are constantly pursuing acceptance, just doing everything, trying to be accepted, trying to do enough, keep trying to serve and work, and maybe if I do this, maybe they'll love me, maybe they will accept me into their circles. They're just trying their best for acceptance, going after things. For some other people, they're pursuing beauty. And so if there's another surgery that they can get, I mean, they've nearly sliced their noses off. Again, the key to life is balance. But there's some people that live in constant pursuits. And I mean, when you've had a dozen or more operations, you still are not satisfied. And it is just more and more. And you're trying to hold on to a youth. Here's one of the most dangerous things, because you see, the issue is that what you pursue defines who you are. But see, this is also an issue. It could be that not pursuing anything is a huge problem, because that also tells you who you are. Not to pursue anything. There's some folks that don't have any drive in them to do anything, and that's a problem. You ought to be pursuing something. It ought to be something worthy and something lofty and something noble, but you ought to be pursuing something, because to pursue nothing is a huge indication of a problem. It was Marcus Aurelius that said that the true worth of a man is to be measured by the objects that he pursues. The true worth of a man is to be measured by the objects which he pursues. So remember, how you see yourself determines how you see others. How you see yourself determines how you see others. How you see yourself determines how you see others. And remember, how you are with people shows where you are with God. And remember that what you pursue defines who you are. Here's the fourth thing. What you have or lack determines how you see others in your life. What you have or what you lack determines how you see others in your life. Because, you know, if you're in sales, particularly multi-level marketing, everybody you see, you don't even see them as a human being, you see them as a potential client. You know? It's because of what you have. It determines how you see people. I mean, when you're in pain, everybody that you meet, you wonder, are they an abuser when you're in pain? If you are in need, if you're hungry, everybody that you see is a potential supplier. Because what you have or what you lack determines how you see other folks in your life. Isn't it interesting? If you got something that you hate in yourself, we hate in others what we can't stand in ourselves. Isn't that an interesting dilemma? And sometimes we hate people just because of who they remind us of that caused us pain. It's not even anything against you personally, but if you look like them, if you got a mannerism that reminds them of somebody else that rubbed them the wrong way, guess what? You trigger a negative emotion in them, a negative memory, and they have a problem with you because of what they have. What they have is a painful memory. That painful memory determines how they see you. They don't even like you because somewhere in the back of their mind, you remind them of somebody else that they didn't like. And so they'll take it out on you. Because we hate anybody who reminds us of anything that we're trying to escape. It's interesting. We try to kill in others what we are trying to kill in ourselves. It's amazing. But let me say this to you. living for self will bankrupt your joy. Living for self will bankrupt your joy when you just live for yourself. I had a friend that I was with a couple of weeks ago, and he's worth $80 million a year. And he said these words to me. And he said them so quickly. I said, no. I said, say that again to me. And he said it again for me. This is what he said. He says, when you live a life of extravagant generosity, he said, you won't be able to stop God's blessings in your life. Now, he makes $80 million a year. He's a young man. I said, say that again. And I wrote it down. He said, when you live a life of extravagant generosity, you won't be able to stop God's blessings in your life. And he said, I find it each year. He said, because I only need a fraction of what I make to live on each year. And he says, I get so much joy out of being able to give to support the work of God in various places. And he says, I just have to live on a fraction. He says, I don't need but a fraction. He just said, the more I make, the more I can give. And he says, I've not been able to stop God's blessings in my life. He says, he just keeps blowing my mind every year. A young man making $80 million a year. And he discovers that when you live a life of extravagant generosity, you cannot stop God's blessings in your life. I said, Jeff, I said, I'm going to use that. And I'm going to tell people what you taught me. And that's why I'm sharing it with you. I thought it was so wonderful. He's not a minister. He's a businessman. But he realizes that he's placed in the earth and that God has prospered him so that he might help establish the covenants of God in the earth. Deuteronomy 8:18, it is the Lord who gives you power to get wealth that he might establish his covenant in the earth. And when a businessman says that to me, I'm like, dude, you get it. It's such an incredible blessing. But living for self will bankrupt your joy. It will bankrupt your joy. Charles Spurgeon said this, that it is not how much we have, but how much we enjoy that makes happiness. Not how much we have, but how much we enjoy. William Shakespeare put it this way, that happiness is not having what you want. Happiness is wanting what you have. Is wanting what you have, being able to enjoy the stuff that you have. And I love something that C.S. Lewis said. He said, if you live for the next world, he says, you get this one in the deal. But if you live only for this world, you lose them both. And I'm just telling you, when you live for the next world, when you got to be sending timber ahead, when you live for the next world, you get this one in the deal. But when you're just trying to live for this world only, get as much as you can, as long as you can, you end up losing not only this one, but the one to come. Because you've gotten all of this stuff, gained the whole world, and end up losing your soul. You lose your mind after you got all this stuff, because now you're crazy over who's going to get your stuff. Isn't that amazing? And then I thought about this question, how do you see people who need help? How do you see your neighbor? How do you see people who need help? And then it triggered this question in my mind. Why don't we help people more? And these were some little thoughts that I thought about in terms of why we don't help people more. It's because we feel like we need help ourselves. You ever felt that way? I mean, just being honest. I'm like, somebody needs help, and like, I need help myself. I'm trying to get help myself. And sometimes we feel like we just don't know the best way to help them. We don't know how to help them. That if I give you something right now, am I really helping you, or am I enabling your condition? How do I best help you? Sometimes we don't know how to best help. Other times we don't help people more because we feel like we don't have time to help them. And then sometimes this is the motive, is that we don't want people to become dependent on us. Because you give them a free fish sandwich today, they'll be back tomorrow with some friends. And sometimes we're afraid, if we help them, of what might happen to us. It's a shame that our society has become so dangerous that you're afraid to stop and help somebody who's got the hood up by the side of the road, because people do scams. And they'll end up jacking your car because you got out to help them. You don't know who's doing that. I mean, I was coming home one morning about 2 o'clock in the morning. Somebody came and stood out in the middle of the road. You know, I mean, I had to slow down to stop. But as soon as they came around to my window, I hit the accelerator. I don't know what they needed to this day. They look very suspect, you know, I mean, so I'm just keeping it real. It happened whether I had told you about it or not. Listen, don't judge me. It is what it is. I mean, another one of my friends, she drives, you know, was driving a Rolls Royce at the time. And she said that she said, I wanted to pick this person up that was hitchhiking. She said, but you can't pick up everybody in a Rolls Royce. I said, I do understand. It's not that she didn't want to help him. She knew it was not safe for her to help him. And so sometimes the question is, I would help, but I don't know what's liable to happen to me in the process. But W. Clement Stone said that thinking will not overcome fear, but action will. Thinking will not overcome fear, but action will. But here's the wonderful thing, because the question is, how do you see your neighbor? The question is that we have the power to change the way that we see things. You have the power to change how you see things. Lay your hand on your chest, prophesy to yourself, say, I have the power to change how I see things. Wayne Dyer said, change the way you see things and the things you see will change. Change the way you see things and the things you see will change. You have the power to change the way that you see things. When you start looking at your spouse not as a problem but as a blessing, your relationship will change. When you start seeing your children as a blessing and not a burden, your relationship with them will improve. How you see things will impact, you know, how they respond to you. But please understand that change takes time. Change takes time. Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 30 in the God's Word translation says this: brutal beatings cleanse away wickedness. Such beatings cleanse the innermost being. And then this is my interpretation of that, is that sometimes it takes a painful situation to make us change our ways. Sometimes it takes a painful situation to make us change our ways. You notice how the scripture put it though? Brutal beatings cleanse away wickedness. That sometimes God will put you in a difficult situation in life, and life will beat you up, but it'll get a lot of foolishness out of you. Because you know, when life is knocking you upside the head, you're not thinking about how I can go out and fornicate. You're trying to live. So sometimes painful situations help to put us in a posture to be able to change. And I am grateful to God, because there are some people, in all honesty, that will not change until the pain of remaining the same becomes more painful than the pain of changing. And when we can no longer stand to keep our life the way it is, that's when we'll change. But God has to make us uncomfortable where we are. But in that process, I want you to realize you have to know what to fight for and you have to know what to let go of. When you go through difficulty, you got to know what to fight for and you got to know what to let go of. Because there are certain things that are like sandbags are to a hot air balloon. You have to jettison those bags so you can go up. You got to know what to hold on to and you got to know what to let go of. And once you learn that, something powerful will happen. But never quit something with long-term potential just because you can't deal with the stress of the moment. Never quit something with long-term potential just because you can't deal with the stress of the moment. Because once you learn to quit something, quitting becomes easy for you and then it becomes a habit. And you'll never finish things. And so one of the reasons that when I'm committed to something that I refuse to quit is because I say this to myself, that quitting gives those who believe in me and those who stand with me too much pain, and those who stand against you too much satisfaction. So when you think about that quitting gives those who believe in you and stand with you too much pain, and those who stand against you too much satisfaction. So refuse to quit on things that you should never quit on. You will get tired. When you get tired, rest. Just rest. You will get tired, but don't throw in the towel. Just rest. Just rest. There is a difference between giving out and giving up. Sometimes when you're working toward things, you will become exhausted. You'll give out, but that doesn't mean that you give up. It means that when you're fighting that round, you're exhausted. You need to go and sit in your corner when the bell rings and get yourself refreshed. Don't keep jumping around, bouncing around, swinging around after the bell has rung. Sit down and rest so that it refreshes you, it changes your perspective and empowers you to be able to go back into something that God can help you through. Because God can take any deficit in your life and eventually make it an asset, but it won't happen overnight. Give him time to work. He'll take any deficit and God can make that thing an asset to you. But every person's faith, every dream must pass the test of discouragement. You must pass the test of discouragement. Can you be discouraged and still hold on with tenacity in your faith? Because whatever you believe in God for, there's going to be something that's going to interrupt the process to make it look like it will be impossible, that I'll never get through this. It'll look like the relationship will never work. It will look like the job is not going to pan out for you, that the application will never be approved, like your situation with your son or your daughter is never going to be worked out, and it's got to pass the test of discouragement. You'll get somebody that will deny you temporarily for something, but delay is not denial. And they'll deny. And the thing is, can you stay faithful to God during the time that you're discouraged? What happens when God says to you as an Abraham, you know, that you're going to become the father of many nations and produce stuff, and you're 75 when he gives you the promise? I mean, what do you do? I mean, when you're in that situation, and then when you're 80 years old, you still haven't had a baby. And you're getting discouraged because your spouse is old too. Can you pass the discouragement test, or are you going to become impatient and produce an Ishmael trying to help God out, working it out in your flesh? Every test, everybody's faith, every dream must pass the test of discouragement, because there will arise negative circumstances and situations that will look like this thing will never happen. That is totally normal to the process. It will look like at the last minute that the deal is falling through, that my other partners are backing out on me and I'm not going to be able to do this thing. Have you ever been so close to something and then everything looks like it slips away from you, and you've lost other stuff in the past, and the devil is telling you, now this one is never going to work out. See, you thought you almost had it, and then there the relationship went belly up. And he makes you think that you're never going to get anything. Can you pass the test of discouragement? That even when your soul is cast down and you are discouraged, but you said, God, I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know when you're going to do it, through whom you're going to do it, but I do believe down in my Noah, God, that you are going to do this thing. You gave me a promise, God. I don't know when my breakthrough is going to come through, but Lord, I'm trusting you. I don't understand what's happening in my life right now. I cannot see it. There are situations that are beyond my control right now, but Lord, I'm trusting you. My times are in your hand, Jesus, and I need you. I need you. I need you. Can you stand the test of discouragement? I declare to you that if you'll stand it, if you'll say, God, I'm going to do it, no matter what I have to go through. No matter what I have to go through, you've got to be able to come to that place of resolve where you say, if I perish, I perish. You got to be at that place to where you say that if we burn, we're just going to burn, but my knee will not bow. I'm not going to bow to Baal. You can throw me in your fire, but even if you throw me in your fire, I believe that he's able to deliver me. And there's some time that God won't keep you from going into the fire, but he'll step in the fire with you and become a fireproof shield around you. When you come out, your hair won't be singed. Your reputation won't be ruined. You won't smell like what you've been through. And I'm here to tell you, just to declare to you that if you won't be discouraged in the midst of it, if you say, Lord, my soul is cast down, I'm stressed out about this thing, I'm not sleeping well at night, but I'm just telling you, if you say, Lord, my faith looks up to you, oh Lamb of Calvary, Lord, I don't even know any other place to be able to turn. I stretch my hands to thee. No other help I know. If thou withdraw thyself from me, God, whither shall I go? You'll be in a place where you say, the consecrated cross I bear, till death shall set me free. I know there's a cross for everyone, and there is a cross for me. I'm just telling you, there's a place, there's a test of discouragement. And God says, if you'll be able to go through this thing and look up toward me as your provider, I am your strength. I am the lifter of your head. I'm the one that'll be able to bring you through. I'll give you a brand new testimony. If you'll trust me, I know they said that it was final, but God says, can you trust me in this hour? You watch what God will do. When is it too late for God? Is anything honestly too hard for God? God will whip the thing. If he has to step in the fire with you, God will step in the fire and give you a testimony of glory and promote you through the very thing that was trying to set you back. The greatest tool that the devil uses to defeat the people of God is the tool of discouragement. Don't let it overtake your soul, but fix your eyes upon him who's able to do exceedingly abundantly and above all that you can ask or think. Above all that you can ask or think, and is according to the power that works on the inside of you. Because right when you are about to come into something, here now comes a monkey wrench into the program, and it looks like everything is going to become discombobulated now.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.